Hello, I am Helen Knight with Dreamtime Healings, and I am here with my friend Rebecca. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Rebecca?
Yes. Hello, I'm Rebecca from Echo Consciousness.
And we want to talk a little bit about what is exactly clairvoyance. We're going to be holding this ceremony, but some people may think, nah, I'm not clairvoyant. I can't see anything. And we just want to clarify a little bit around what is exactly clairvoyance. Rebecca, do you want to start?
Yeah. What often comes up is people can refer to themselves as being very visual, and they don't necessarily associate that with clairvoyance, and yet it is highly associated with clairvoyance. So basically, the way I can view it is receiving message in a visual manner. However, that vision shows up for you, which for each of us, it can be so different. And yeah, I don't know if you want to touch on the different ways that you've noticed, even with clients, how they receive their visions and how varying that can even be. And it's still all clairvoyance.
Well, maybe why don't we share for us? Like we're clairvoyant, and oftentimes we're not
Sure.
on, right? Clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. There's a lot of generally speaking, they're all in there. Some people have a stronger sense of clairsentience, stronger sense of clairvoyance, but we both are clairvoyant. And I would say to people, I don't see things. I always tell them I don't see things as if you see them in 3D. Sometimes I see things in color, but it's a mix between a vision and a knowingness of what it's trying to tell me. And I have heard someone else refer just the other day how she can see visions. They're often on the corner, they're over here, and if she looks at it directly, it'll disappear. And so she knows that she just has to pay attention to the vision over here, corner of her eye. Like, everybody's so different. But how do you get visions, Rebecca?
I love that you mentioned that the visions are over here, because we had briefly talked about how sometimes when I'm speaking, I'm not looking straight ahead. I'll often look this way or that way. And it's actually depending on how I'm receiving the information, whether it's clairaudient or clairvoyant. And if I'm not engaging this way visually, it's often because I'm receiving visual information in another direction. And this helps me focus on it. So I love that you mentioned this other friend that has it.
Are you looking at it?
Yeah. So sometimes when I instead, as you can notice, if I go here, it's often because I'm focusing in with my third eye and I'm being shown something. And and it also has to do with like recalling. For people who studied NLP, I believe in neuro-linguistic programming, I believe they talk on this a little bit. The different areas and centers in the brain, depending on whether or not you're recalling or if it's an auditory memory or a visual memory. So there's a whole like brain science behind this that I think will come a little bit more forward into the mainstream knowing. And as far as like the way the visual information comes through, it's I'm going to say it's a mixed bag, but in the best way. Because I feel like I'm constantly learning new ways of engaging with it. It's like, oh, that's cool. So sometimes I literally see words printed in front of me.
Yes, I get that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then other times, like when I'm working with spirits, so like ancestors or guides, often I will actually see like a physical form, except it's not like solid mass-like. But I will get pretty much a whole visual gamut of like a full body or full, it might not be in human form, but a full image. And then other times it is just colors, especially when I'm working with like clearing. So when it comes to clearing energy, so really cool with like past, like going into past lives, like where I see that in the body of where there's like a trauma held within the body and how it connects through to a past life, that will show up a very specific, like a specific way too. So there's all sorts of different ways. Yeah. And I think that some people also associate clairvoyance with seeing into the future or like timelines. And I feel like not all of us do that. And it doesn't necessarily mean we don't have the capability, but it's just not where we're guided to go.
Right.
Is what I'll say.
Yeah, and seeing into the future, I mean, timelines can change so quickly, especially right now. Like I try to
Absolutely.
empower my clients, especially when I was teaching Reiki in person, that let's just read the energy for right here, right now. That it could easily change your energy changes. So yeah, I think we want to really share here with everybody that the way you see or sense visions, it's everybody is unique in their gift, and there's no right or wrong, and there's no one of the big things that comes up is I'm just making that up. I just like, they can't differentiate. There's not the trust that what they're seeing really means something. And I know when I would when I was teaching Spirit Reiki 1, I would say to people, doesn't matter if you see a bag of jelly beans and a little puppy. Tell the person on the table that that's what you're seeing, and you might be really surprised that that message means something to that person. And
Yes.
and then it's building the confidence, right? It's
yeah.
We didn't become clairvoyant where we are today overnight, did we? It took practice.
No. Practice, and it was the building of the trust. And I love that you mentioned too about, you know, whether it's like a bag of jelly beans. So the mind will try to make it seem like it might be not significant because our logic mind might not understand it, but it's an intuitive knowing that comes through. So many times it's very true. You're talking with a client, you're in a healing session, what seems to not make sense up here, and you let them know what's coming through, you know, that can move people to tears sometimes. And if you were just thinking with your mind, you wouldn't have gone there. So it really, with these clairvoyant gifts, and they really are gifts, they help to open up the body, they help to move the energy flow by sharing them with other people. And I wanted to touch on one other thing that can also happen is like there can be a comparison between what other people see and what we see. And then you can kind of either think that what you're seeing isn't true, for example, or doesn't have validity. And so many things are uniquely personal to us, and it therefore can actually enrich our everyday lives. So it's not always going to look like everybody else. And then I'm going to touch on too, I was tuning in the spirit on how to actually like frame this and explain it, because there can be so many different ways of viewing things, and that comes into play with clairvoyance as well. So you can have like two intuitive people, and they could have like two different takes on something, and then there could be mistrust because there's two different takes, but they're not wrong, they're just different vantage points of viewing. And I was kind of brought to like this image of a dresser drawer, and depending on which drawer you open, you're going to see different things in the drawer. It doesn't mean that it's not in the dresser. It just means that you had access and you opened that drawer, and then so that's what you see. And so, you know, with our ability to view, you know, if someone else is in a group and they're seeing one thing and you're seeing another thing, you just open different dresser drawers. Like it's
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to leave this. I think we're going to wrap it up there and leave that for you to marinate in and to think about all of that. And again, just trust. If you are seeing things, your eyes open or with your eyes closed, and you feel like this ceremony is for you, then come join us in this magical vortex that we're going to create to activate and awaken more of your clairvoyance, more of your gifts. So thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Take care.